welcome to today's Postgrad Insight session. Today's live webinar will be brought to you by the Royal Agricultural University, who are going to be talking you through all things Royal Ag Uni, about the international team, domestic team. We're going to have specific course mentions in agroecology, the two MBA courses they offer as well. So this is set to be an extremely popular issue. Now, if you have any questions, any concerns, anything that you might want answered, please put in the Q&A or the chat facility on your page, bottom or top, depending on the device you're watching. If you're watching on social media today, which I appreciate there might be a few of you, please message me directly, gareth@postgradsolutions.com, and we'll endeavour to answer your question. Now, I'd like to hand you over to Ellie Gillingham. She's the UK Student Recruitment Manager for the Royal Agricultural University. Ellie, if you'd like to come on at this stage, you're going to be taking us through the next 45 minutes, and I'll be back for the Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gareth. So welcome everyone. My name's Ellie Gillingham. I'm the UK Student Recruitment Manager here at the Royal Agricultural University. I'll introduce my colleagues as well who will be taking part of this webinar this morning as well. So we've got Karen Brooks, who's our International Recruitment Officer, Dr. Jonathan Code, who looks after our MSc in Agroecology, who you'll hear more from in a little bit, and Dr. Beverly Hill, who looks after our MBA suite of programs. And again, you'll hear from her shortly. So thank you very much for joining us, and I will move on now to the start of the presentation. So just to give you a bit of an oversight of what to expect as part of this webinar today, I'm going to give an introduction for about 10 minutes or so into the Royal Agricultural University. So if you've not heard of us before or not visited us before, then hopefully that will give you a bit of an overview of who we are, where we are and what we offer. Then I'll hand over to my colleague Jonathan, who will give a course spotlight into our MSc in Agroecology. And then I'll hand over to Dr. Beverly Hill, who will give an insight into our MBA programs. And then I'll pick back up again to give you some top tips of how to apply, what to include in your personal statement. And then, as Gareth mentioned, we'll have a Q&A option at the end. So please do ask us any questions and we'll endeavour to answer those at the end of the presentation. So a little bit of an insight then into us. We were established in 1845 as the Royal Agricultural College, as we were then known. We were the first agricultural college in the English-speaking world, and we were given our Royal Charter by Queen Victoria. And we're really pleased to have just had confirmation that our new president of the RAU and patron is the King himself, King Charles. So we look forward to having a visit from him soon. So, as I mentioned, 1845 is when we were first founded, and since then, since 1845, we've been making sure that we're always at the forefront of the land-based education sector. So we've got our rural business origins. So basically the college, as it was then, was founded by a group of local farmers who saw the benefit of education in the land-based sector and wanted to make sure that future generations had the knowledge, because they saw that knowledge would be power in this sector, and they wanted to make sure that they had a facility that they could put forward for future generations to learn. So ever since then, we've made sure that climate change, population growth, global supply chains, all the current issues that are affecting the world, not only just in the UK, but internationally as well, and making sure that those are always at the forefront of the things that our students are learning and our academic staff are researching. And on top of that, enterprise and innovation is something that's woven into all of our courses. So we want to make sure that the graduates that receive their degrees from the Royal Agricultural University have the skill set that they need to be able to go straight into the workplace sector with a brilliant degree under their belts and a lot of knowledge and insight of how to put that into practice in the working world. So a little bit then about the RAU students and how we help develop them. So we look at making sure that, oh, that's my phone pinging in the background, sorry. We like to make sure that we've got a professional approach. We inspire our graduates to be reflective, self-aware team members with really good communication skills. A sustainable mindset is something that's really key to the strategy here at the RAU. We want to make sure that our graduates commit to the environmental sustainability and regeneration, and make sure that they demonstrate an understanding of complexity and have the knowledge of different systems. We want to make sure that people are innovative that graduate at the RAU. So we want to make sure you've got a commercial acumen, you're curious, you push boundaries, you think in an innovative way to really solve real world problems. We also make sure that you're technically skilled. So we make sure that we inspire our graduates to enter the workplace as technically and as digitally skilled as possible. And so that you've got practical knowledge, but also the scientific insight and know-how too. And as our strategy states on our website, you can read more about it if you'd like to. We make sure that all of our graduates are collaborative, open-minded, resourceful, responsible, and inclusive. So a little bit about kind of the setup here at the RAU. So we are a campus-based university based in Cirencester in the Cotswolds. I'll touch more about Cirencester as a town itself in a moment. But we like to make sure that our courses have a practical element where that's applicable to them. So I know that Jonathan will touch on the different field trips and different sites and things that you could visit as part of the agroecology masters. But as a kind of university, we want to make sure that we have that blended approach to learning. So there's lots of different opportunities for our students to go off campus. We've also got a partnership, as you can see in the bottom right of my screen there, with something called the Bathurst Estate, which is a huge estate in the neighbouring land all around the university where we're based in Cirencester. So it's a 15,000 acre teaching space essentially. So we've got a partnership with them and they make sure that our lecturing staff and our students themselves can take part in using that land as a kind of extension of our campus. So our employability and industry links are really strong. We are what is known as a small and specialist university here at the Royal Agricultural University, but we do have a fiercely loyal alumni network. So it's ever growing. Obviously, it's 17,000 plus. We make sure that all of our alumni really kind of feed back into the student experience as well. So you can see in the background there, we've got a number of different industries and things like that have joined us at a recruitment fair for some of our property courses. That's just a small example of quite a small careers fair that we had on campus. We have huge careers fairs that take place where a lot of our alumni actually work in quite senior levels and a lot of very well-known companies, especially in the real estate and agriculture sectors. So we'll see lots of kind of big name people come back to the RAU quite often to offer placement opportunities and job roles in terms of graduate schemes and things like that. They quite often offer them to Royal Agricultural University students ahead of the wider market. They see the value in the teaching that we offer here, and they make sure that they kind of look after their own in a way. So it's a really nice network to be a part of. You'll be very well looked after, and there's a lot of mentorship and sort of guidance and things that you can get from previous students that were keen to look after the future generations of the land-based sector students. So a little bit about Cirencester. You can see that nice aerial shot there of this town centre. So it's a market town. It's a beautiful part in the Cotswolds. In terms of the transport links and where we are in the UK, so we're in the southwest of England. For those of you that are hearing from us, that are coming from us overseas today, to give you a little bit of an insight into where we are. So yeah, the southwest of England is where we're based. We're about an hour north of Bristol. We're close to Cheltenham and Gloucester. We've got really good transport links into London itself. So our nearby train station is called Kemble, and that's on the direct line from London Paddington, and it's about an hour and 20 minutes from London Paddington. We've got the benefit of the wealth of land all around us. So we are one of the few university campuses left in the UK that doesn't charge for car parking. So if you're looking to drive to and from campus each day and commute that way, then that's absolutely fine. We've got plenty of car parking on campus and it's the benefit of being free. In terms of public transport, I've mentioned the train links, but we do also have quite a lot of buses that come from nearby towns and cities. And we also have a stop in Cirencester itself for National Express coaches as well, which go into then all major cities around the UK. So yeah, really easy to get to us, but then you've got the beauty of being in a rural setting once you get here, where there's lots of things to do in Cirencester. It might seem like quite a sleepy market town, but given the nightlife and the student population here, they certainly know how to party. So you don't need to worry about not having anything to do in your evenings if you're interested in doing that. We've got a great nightlife. There's a club, there's various different pubs and bars, really nice cafes and things like that as well. We've got a lot of our student union put on a lot of different events and things like that, and we've got a really tight-knit postgrad community here on campus that also organise their own societies and things like that too. So there's lots to get involved with if you'd like to, but equally if you just want a quiet postgraduate study life, then that's obviously definitely an option for you too. So just touching on the research then that we have here at the Royal Agricultural University, we're really proud, despite being a small specialist university, we're really proud of the accolade that we've got. More than half of our research has been commended as world leading and internationally excellent by the Research Excellence Framework. So a number of our academic team are really skilled researchers and are at the top of their field in their different areas. As a university, and as part of our main strategy, our research is focused on three main goals that are listed there below. Again, tying back to the land-based sector, so feeding the world in a changing environment, sustaining and restoring the global environment, and enabling and revitalising global Britain in a post-Brexit and COVID world. So I'll just touch on a couple of the logos there that you can see on our screens. The top right-hand logo is the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group, which Jonathan will mention in his presentation, who we've partnered with for our new Masters in Agroecology. And Beverly will touch on the WRC logo that you can see there, which we've partnered with for our MBA in Water Management. A number of other logos you'd expect to see within the land-based sector, such as the Soil Association, DEFRA, we work really closely with in terms of the UK government. Some logos you might not expect to see, for example, McDonald's, a bit of a curveball perhaps, but actually one of our Pro-Vice Chancellors, David Main, works in terms of animal welfare, and he sits on the McDonald's Advisory Board for chicken welfare. So very varied, very wide-ranging set of skill sets our academic staff have got, but you'll definitely be in happy company there if you were looking at doing a postgrad or master's level research project, for example. We've got a lot of partners and agencies and companies that we work with very closely in terms of our research. So just touching very quickly then before I hand over to Jonathan for an introduction in our MSc in Agroecology, just touching on the other courses that we offer. Here is just a little snapshot of some of the most agriculture focused ones, just in mind of the agriculture webinar we're doing today, but we also offer a number of different other master's level courses that aren't featured on that screen there, but you can find out all about our complete offering on our website. So it's rau.ac.uk/PG courses. Perfect. So I will hand over now to Jonathan Code, who's going to give an introduction to our MSc in Agroecology. So welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for joining us this morning. So I'll be running the slides, so just let me know when you'd like me to move on to the next one.
Great. Thank you very much, Ellie, and greeting to everybody who is on this call this morning. I'm Dr. Jonathan Code, Senior Lecturer in Sustainable Land Management, and I'm also the Program Manager for the MSc in Agroecology, which I will talk to you about just now. So Ellie, if we can move on. So this is our campus. Ellie's already touched on this. Rural campus, we can see a mixture of farmland, woodland, and just out of frame to the right, the Bathurst Estate, which Ellie also talked about, which also has a significant area of woodland. And I will touch a little bit on why I bring those two already into the frame, both agriculture and woodland, as we move along. So next slide, please, Ellie. So what is agroecology? Ellie, you can just click through this one because there'll be some text come up. And I won't go through all of this just in terms of time, but agroecology is partly within the title. We can see that we're bringing a focus on agriculture, but we're also bringing a focus on ecology. And what's not in the title, it might make it too extensive, is agroecology also focuses on the sort of social cultural dimensions of agriculture and the environment. So increasingly we realize that in order for our agriculture to be in a robust and resilient state, we also need to have a healthy environment. We need biodiversity. We need good quality soils. And at the same time, we need to also have a good and robust social context for that to take place in. And these different factors, let's say food production, let's say the environment, and let's say the social cultural domain, the way that those are currently supported, let's say, are different in different country regions. So we take an international focus in the degree course. We're located in the UK, so a lot of our case study farms that we'll visit will be here in the UK, but we're always looking also at how different agricultural systems, how the ecology is, and how the social cultural dimension is in different countries around the world. Okay, Ellie, you'll probably get one more bit of text on that one, but we will move on. So the big question is, can agroecology contribute to something like climate change? Climate change is big on everybody's agenda right now. And how does agroecology, this would be one little question we could pose, one little sort of facet of the program. Can agroecology contribute to the mitigation of climate change? Well, I'll just give you a couple of examples as Ellie clicks through here. So we could say that one of the things that we're witnessing, go ahead, Ellie. One of the things we're witnessing in the current situations globally, you could say, are, maybe that slide's not moving forward. Just click forward again, Ellie. And again. So here on the right, we can see, and below it, we can see that one issue we could talk about would be flooding. England is actually seeing significant flooding. We had one of the wettest winters we've had in decades. We saw significant amounts of rainfall. We saw this in urban environments. We saw this in rural environments. We can see the impacts of that in some of the soil erosion on the right. And so an example from the UK, this is very specifically to the UK, it's not necessarily a problem solver, but what is happening in the news here is we're saying, okay, maybe we need to change the way that we work with water in the environment. So click a couple times. Well, many of you, depending on where you are in the world, you may know what the animal in the lower part of the screen is. Well, that's a beaver, a Eurasian beaver. I come from Canada originally, very familiar with this animal. And the construction on the right is actually made by a beaver. That's about a 5 foot between two different water levels, possibly even more. And that's all constructed by this animal. And what the beaver does, we're realizing, is the beaver creates a whole wetland environment that actually slows the water down as it moves through a catchment area. So rather than water land somewhere within a river system and just flush its way through at great volume, we'll realize that what are often called ecological engineers can help actually, in their natural way of behaving, create different water systems, different types of flow, different types of restraining flow. And we're actually seeing in a country in the UK where we had actually lost all of the beavers, we're seeing some of these come back. And gradually we're starting to explore the fact that we can actually start to work with ecology and the environment at the same time. Next slide, please. What about food system resilience and food security? These are really big issues in the world right now. We might see droughts in which we're seeing compromises to some of our core agricultural crops and main staples. Well, we can also explore some of the ways that we're starting to work with those. So next slide, or just another click, Ellie. Here on the left, we're seeing, rather than a monocultural wheat, one strain of wheat that is requires heavy inputs of fertilizers and pesticides to grow. On the left, we're seeing rows of wheat from Suffolk, grown at a farm in Suffolk, which is a population wheat. And the research that's going on here is almost in the opposite direction. It's based on diversity. So in this particular row here, we might see 30 different varieties of wheat, all planted at the same time. There will be drought resistance, flood resistance, cold and warmth tolerance within that same population. And the population is allowed to grow and also to cross-pollinate, so that over time, we're developing real resilience in that system. One more click, please, Ellie. Here in the same farm, a few rows over, we'll see vegetable production. So here we're seeing the type of case study that we will explore, one of many different case studies we explore in the degree program, which is maybe the shift into monocultural farming that has been such a focus for the last decades will be part of a food production system in the future, but maybe we can also look at these diverse, multi-species, multi-different ways of producing vegetables in the middle of the rows, fruit on either side. If we were to go left or right on this image, we come into fruit trees, biomass, biodiversity. We're starting to looking at different ways we can imagine our agricultural landscapes. Next slide, please, Ellie. This is just one more picture from that same environment growing an arable crop between tree rows. Carry on, please. So what about, can agroecology contribute to the healthy culture and resilient social ecosystems? So that's the other point I touched upon as well. Can we question how we're growing food, producing our staple food crops? Can we do that so the environment isn't impacted negatively at the same time? And can we also make food available to as many people as possible? Down the road from the RAU, we'll explore an initiative called the Long Table. And the Long Table is a kitchen and also a space for eating that's designed on the principle of pay what you can. So at this particular restaurant, if you like, or probably stretches the term of that a little bit, good food is produced from organic and regenerative farms, and anybody can eat by paying what you can or what you want even. So the food is available to anybody, no matter what the economic situation is. We all sit at the same table, so there's not different tables for different people who are paying different amounts. We all sit at the same table, and we all eat good, healthy food that's been produced in an agroecological way. Next slide, please. And just carry on, Ellie. We'll just keep moving. So if we bring these three domains together with agroecology, one more click, Ellie, we'll see that we're really trying, it's a complex study, because we could have a degree just on the environment and ecology, we could have a degree just on agriculture and food, and we definitely can have degrees that focus purely on society and culture. In agroecology, we're taking on this challenge, if you like, but also this great opportunity to look at the interface of these. Now that's done through theory. We'll just keep moving, Ellie. Sometimes that's through a theoretical approach, and sometimes that's through on-the-ground case studies and different ways to really bring practice and theory together. The program is structured in 3 tiers so that somebody who wants to come on and just take a postgraduate certificate will gain one in regenerative farming. That is the 4 core modules, looking at organics, looking at agroecology, looking at applied farmland ecology. If a student wants to go a bit further, they can do a PG dip in agroecology. The main difference between that and the master's degree is you won't do a full dissertation. Should you choose to do a full dissertation and obtain a master's degree, you go on to do those extra credits. You do a dissertation, in-depth course of study, and that moves you up into that space where you're doing an MSc in agroecology. Quick look briefly at some of the contents. Here we can see some of the core modules, which I just mentioned: fundamentals of agroecology, organic and regenerative systems, integrated agricultural systems. And for those who are doing the master's degree, a module in research skills and a dissertation. We also have some electives, and these electives on the bottom part of this slide, we can see there's a focus on woodlands. Super important, I would say, globally right now. We're aware that our forests are depleted. We're aware that our landscapes are often depleted of trees, and trees provide a wealth of ecosystem services, but also just climate moderating and all kinds of things. So we will have electives on soil, electives on climate change, and core modules that really dive deeply into farmland ecology. Next slide, please, Ellie. So we'll move through these next ones a little bit of pace, but we blend academic and practical. We have a classical in-campus time where we really want to sit and focus and discuss and be in a seminar type situation, but we also want to get out there into the landscape. We're connected to good small farms, which is very local. I just showed you some pictures of Wakelands in Suffolk, the other side of the country in the east. Yatesbury Farm is a large-scale arable farm, but also working with biodynamics and agroecological principles and agroforestry. Sapperton Wilder is a great new project just down the road from us, looking at how do we integrate trees into the landscape. The last thing I want to mention from this slide is just on the bottom right, we'll see FWAG, the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group. Very key and important partnership on the degree program. We're partnering with FWAG, and FWAG is on the ground all the time working with farmers to say, how do we bring our farming environment into a more ecological balance? And we'll be able to do that just off campus, just a few hundred meters off campus. We'll be able to visit horticultural project run by FWAG, looking at no-dig horticulture. Next slide, please. And again, Ellie's mentioned the Bathurst Estate. I won't go into great detail with that, but we do have a formal partnership with the Bathurst Estate. There are times when we may go into the woodland to look at different tree species, different ways of planting the trees, different issues that forests are facing right now, because some species are facing pretty severe challenges, but also look at how we mitigate those. Next slide, please, Ellie. So just kind of coming to the end of this little presentation right now, we'll see that agroecology, if one wants to do a little bit of research for yourselves, agroecology talks about 10 principles in some cases. This one talks about 13 principles. If you look online, or if you talk to other people who are familiar with agroecology, you can really see this whole aim to balance environment, food production, social, cultural, and economic domains in what we could call a holistic way. Next slide, please. So I'll just finish now by saying, if you want to know any more, we have a dedicated page on our web page, MSc Agroecology. There's information there. Much of it I've covered. You'll also see a little video of me presenting and walking over to the Zero Dig site. And I hope that's given you a bit of a snapshot of what the MSc Agroecology is here at the RAU. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for taking us through the MSc in agroecology. As he's mentioned, there's loads more information on our website. You can see the course specification and have a little bit of a further insight into the different modules and things. And there's also Jonathan's contact details on our website too. But now I'll hand over to the second part of our presentation, which is going to be looking at our MBA programs. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Beverly Hill. Hi, Beverly.
Hi, Ellie. Thanks a lot. Welcome, everybody. I'm really enjoying seeing all your chat messages and telling us where you've come from, different geographical locations. So my task today is to introduce you to our Masters in Business Administration programs. So we're going to offer 2 MBA programs, one in food and agriculture and one in water management. And these are called sectorial MBAs or sectoral MBAs, which means that they include the core elements of business management, which is leadership, strategy, and also finance. But they're embedded in a sector. And in this case, we're looking at the agricultural sector and the water management sector. And we've designed these programs looking at the challenges that Jonathan mentioned and that Ellie mentioned earlier on. We've designed the programs to address some of these challenges, but drawing on the quite unique expertise that the RAU has. So I'm going to talk you through the key components of those programs, the similarities between them, but also what's unique about each of those. So first of all, on this slide, both those MBAs offer that really unique element of MBA learning. So it's really about leadership. It's about decision-making, and it's really about bringing about change. So how do I make responsible, sustainable decisions to bring about change in the sector that I'm interested in working in? So leadership skills, knowledge, competencies to really innovate, to really create policy change in these different sectors. MBAs are quite different from master's programs, from MSc programs, for example, in that they are designed for people who are already working in industry and have at least 3 years work experience at a management level. It doesn't matter what background you are from. The point is that you're able to make managerial decisions, because that makes a really important contribution to how an MBA is run and what you learn from your peers. So next slide, please, Ellie. So these are the core elements of both MBAs, the food and agriculture and water management. So essentially, business acumen is at the very top there. So this is essential. People will have come to us with already some element of business expertise, but really we want to hone those skills. We want to think about applying those. We want to think about how they work to create change across the sectors that we're looking at. So business acumen from leadership, strategy, finance is an essential element of both MBAs. We then move on to very specific sector expertise. So this is where we are able to draw on the expertise of our researchers and teaching staff at the Royal Agricultural University, as well as partnerships, which I'll explain a little bit later on. So both of these degrees are interested in looking at policy, studying policy, but also giving our students the knowledge that they need to impact policy. So essentially, we imagine people who graduate from our MBA programs to be able to prompt change in policy, so really force through the changes that we need for a more sustainable future. And then both degrees have an element of research involved. So as with Jonathan's, you'll be working on a dissertation, but it's important that you learn the research skills which are needed for your professional practice as well as your academic work. So both degrees then have those elements in common. Can we move on, Ellie, to the next slide? So the next two slides will emphasize the unique features of each of these programs. So first of all, let's take a look at the MBA in water management. Clearly, an essential issue currently, and we're really thinking about how we can manage those resources in a sustainable way. And we're blending this with some of the expertise that we have in climate change, managing global soils, so other issues which are related to the management of water. What's unique about this degree is that we work with, in collaboration with the Water Research Centre. So this is a group of researchers and professional practitioners who are based not very far from us in Swindon, which is about 30 minutes from the Royal Agricultural University. And we have access to best practice through our working with them. So we're working in collaboration with them. We employ a professor who is sponsored essentially by the Water Research Centre. So you really have that opportunity to learn what's going on, right at the forefront of water management. And as part of this degree, again, as with Jonathan's degree, there are field trips, industry visits, and we're looking at water and wastewater utilities. So you can see what's going on in practice, you can observe, but more importantly, you can also think about how you can use your observations in order to work on an assessment, a challenge, a problem that you might be thinking about. So a wide variety of opportunities to link with our network of social enterprise, our entrepreneurs, and also our alumni and business links. So let's move on to the next one, Ellie. So the unique features of this program is really to do with our technology incubator. So the RAU on the same campus in Cirencester have Farm 491, which is where we have a number of agri-food entrepreneurs driving forward change in this sector. So students who are working on the MBA in food and agriculture will have the opportunity to work on projects with these agri-food entrepreneurs, finding out what they're doing currently in practice and drawing on the educational knowledge that you get from our research and from our lecturers to think about how we can drive forward that change. So we look at a number of consultancy projects with industry, because that's essentially what we'd expect you to be doing when you leave us. We will also be inviting you to work with our enterprise initiative, which is Cotswold Hills Wine. So we have our own vineyard just outside Cirencester, and we run this as a social enterprise, which means that some of the income that we make from selling our wine goes into supporting students who wish to become entrepreneurs. So enterprise and entrepreneurship is really a strong emphasis of what we're doing in both our MBA programs. Let's move on then, Ellie, to look at some of the modules that you'll study. So the essential business modules are around leadership and decision-making. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who can lead a sector forward to make sustainable, responsible decisions in order to really change the sector as it currently stands. So for both of these, you will be taught together with the other MBA students, so water management and Food and Agriculture to study responsible leadership. You'll also study sustainable business strategies and advanced financial decision making. So as I said, you might have experience of this already. You might have worked in industry. And what you bring to this is your knowledge of how you have led in the past. And we can work with students from other MBA programs to really create new knowledge around leadership in these sectors. So in addition to that, the other common modules here are your research skills, which all our postgrad students do, and our dissertation as well. Let's move on to the sector-specific modules. So here, we have a number of modules for food and agriculture and a number of water management specific modules. So these are the sectorial modules. The majority of these modules are 15 credits, which is the same size as most of our MSc modules, but we have some larger modules here, which are taught in a much more intensive way, which really highlight the key focus of the programme. So the MBA Food and Agriculture, Economics of Food Production, that's really about agricultural economics. It's about supply and demand. It's about thinking about production. It's about thinking about markets. It's about what do we need to tweak in order to enable that to happen better. In terms of the modules that we're offering, we're looking at offering you expertise on a global scale with our integrated agricultural system, but then also to think about that on a much more local basis with small scale farming and local food supply, which is actually Jonathan's module. And then at the end there, we have a policy module, which is really about understanding the challenges that the food and ag sector face and thinking about what policies are in place. You might be even writing a policy document to try and create changes there. In water management, we're looking at climate change and sustainability and how to think about managing global soils. And we're looking at this, from that global perspective, not just UK perspective. And our emphasis here is sustainability and sustainable water management. And our final module there is the policy one. Again, what is in place currently as far as policy is concerned? What needs to change? What are the drivers for change? What can you do to leverage change in this sector? So these, as I said, are called sectorial MBAs. So rather than a completely business-based MBA, it's business leadership, business acumen, but in a sector of your choice. Okay, let's move on, Ellie, to the next slide. So all our programs and all our modules are mapped against the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So when we're developing our programs, we look at what we're offering, we look at the goals, and we think about where there is crossover. So we're emphasizing these as we work through these modules. And that is quite wide scale across the whole of the Royal Agricultural University, both undergrad and postgraduate. Let's move on, Ellie. When we look at an MBA differs from an MSc in the students it recruits, so the requirement to have some business knowledge to start off with, but also its content and delivery. So I'm going to look just briefly at our teaching methods and our assessments for the MBA. Essentially, you're coming into an MBA with some existing knowledge, some existing leadership skills. So what the MBA does, it helps you to ground the new knowledge, the new research, the new understanding into your existing professional experience. So we're asking you to reflect on what you do now, to take a pause, think about how you're operating, how you're leading, how you're managing, and then looking at the new knowledge that we can accumulate, the new knowledge that we bring from our, the contacts that we have, and thinking about the change that can make in how you're going to operate in future. So that idea of grounding new knowledge in your existing professional experience is pivotal to the MBA. Our teaching is about looking at the problems first. So it's problem-based. We think about how we address those problems. And in fact, the degrees were developed based on identifying those problems. And we also use peer-to-peer learning. So an MBA encourages you to work with your peers from lots of different perspectives, different backgrounds, different geographical locations, different industries, to really develop new innovative solutions. And we also have a flipped learning module, which is essentially asking you to undertake a degree of preparation. So you come to a seminar ready to discuss, to debate, to talk. Next slide, please, Ellie. As far as teaching is concerned, this is a professional degree. So an MBA is about professional practice. So a lot of our assessments really are about work that can support your career development, that really have value in the workplace. And again, that's common across a lot of our postgraduate programs. So these are often professional practice reports. We ask you to write reflections, but you also have that opportunity to tailor those assessments to the sector or the sector challenge that you come to it with. You know, you might have a particular issue that you want to address, and you can take the leadership knowledge, for example, and apply it to that particular sector. And then we complete with a dissertation, which, you know, to me is probably the most exciting part of a program. This is your own research on a topic that you're passionate about, supported by us as your, you know, academic staff. Next slide, please, Ellie. As it's a professional program, we are working on professional accreditation for both of these programs. The reason why these are not yet in place is that these degrees have just been validated, which means they've just gone through the approval process. But we have these accreditations on our previous degrees, so you know it's an expectation that this will happen. So first of all, the CMI, Chartered Management Institute, that is a business leadership diploma, and you will qualify for a level 7 diploma from the CMI at the same time as completing your MBA. But we're also looking at working with the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment, IEMA, and also the Chartered Institute of Water and Environmental Management, because they reflect the ethos of our programs. So that will happen this summer and will be in place hopefully for September. Next slide, please, Ellie. So to finish off, just thought I'd highlight some of the potential career prospects. So when we develop a program, we're thinking about what you're going to do when you leave this program. So essentially, you could be coming into this because you want to move into food and agriculture or water management from another sector. Or you might want to move up to a more strategic leadership level within that sector. You might be looking for a new business opportunity, you know, setting up your own business, your own enterprise, or you might want to go further into research and consultancy. And essentially, the MBA programs enable you to do that. You might become a consultant, you might take a leadership role, you might be really interested in the policy and look at, you know, becoming a government advisor or a policymaker, or essentially an advocate, you know, an advocate for change in one of these sectors. I think that's all I'm going to say to you for now. I'm going to pass over to Ellie to finish off our presentations.
Thank you so much, Beverly. And as I mentioned with Jonathan's programme, both of the MBA programmes that Beverly's just spoken about have got web pages on our website. So just simply have a look at those. And again, you can see more detail about the different modules, get Beverly's contact details and things like that if you've got any more questions that you'd like to ask her after this session today. But for us now, I'm just going to run us through a very quick couple of slides about how to apply and what to put in your personal statements. Obviously, it's a little bit different at postgraduate level. Most of you are probably aware that you don't apply through the central body of UCAS like you do at undergraduate study. But we, again, have got the benefit of being a small specialist institution and that we do really take the time to read all of our applications, and that includes the personal statements too. So I'm just going to go through a few little top tips of first and foremost, how to apply, what our deadlines are and things like that, and a few tips of what to put in your personal statement that might help get that all-important offer for you. So, as I've mentioned, we don't go through UCAS at postgraduate level, and for us, we do it all through our website. So we have application buttons for all of our courses through the specific course pages. So just navigate your way to the course that you're most interested in applying for, and from there, you'll see a button that says Apply Now. It'll ask you whether you want to apply for the PG Cert or DIP or Full Masters or MBA, wherever that's applicable, for the various different program layouts. And then it will also ask whether or not you're looking at full-time or part-time study. Don't worry too much about that full-time or part-time option if you're a bit undecided. Just select the one that you're sort of most keen on, and if anything changes down the application process, we can amend that for you as part of our admissions process. The important thing to note is that you can log in and log out as many times as you want through our application process. So you don't need to feel like you need to get everything together, ready to sit down in front of your computer or what have you to do it all at once. You can take your time over it, ponder it, edit it, change it, and just select the submit button when you're ready to do so. So a little bit of a timeline there for you, just in terms of when's the best time to apply. So all of the applications for our September entry are open now. We've got a couple of different deadlines depending on where you're applying to us from. So if you're coming to us from the EU or overseas, then applicants need to submit their application by the 30th of June. So the end of this month is the deadline for that, and our admissions team are quite strict on that. If you're coming to us from the UK, then we're looking to have your application to us by the 1st of September. But essentially, as it says on the right-hand side there, the sooner the better. It just gives you more time to get all your ducks in a row and all your paperwork sorted. So most importantly, what are we looking for as part of the application? So I've got a little bit of a brief overview there on the left-hand side of the kinds of documents and things that you'd need to prepare ready for your application. So hopefully there'll be no surprises. There's nothing too arduous, nothing too taxing. Things such as scanned coloured copies of your degree certificate and any transcripts that you've got. It's normally at this point where I have people go, well, what if I don't have those? Just contact the place that you did your undergraduate studies with. Again, if you've got any kind of professional practice certificates or anything like that that you think might be applicable, you can submit those too. But yeah, again, if you haven't got your degree certificates or transcripts to hand, contact where you did your undergrad your degrees with. There's normally a contact on most university websites to get copies of your transcripts and things from there. So that's something that we need to submit as part of your application. Really importantly for both of our programs that we've spoken about today, but really importantly in particular for the MBA program, we'd like to see a copy of your CV. So that gives us an indication of what you've been up to, what kind of work experience you've got, what kind of your timeline of your career has been. The next thing we look for is 2 academic references, but again, if you've been out of education for a little while, then one of those can be from your most recent employer. The most important bit, however, as I've touched on, is the personal statement. So over on the right-hand side of the screen there, you can see a few top tips of what our admissions team would like to see in conjunction with our academic program leaders, who will also look at your application too. So we're looking for you to expand on your employment history. So in conjunction with your CV, which is typically just a list of your kind of career to and from locations, your personal statement gives you a really good opportunity to expand on that. Tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to in your work. How do you think it's relevant to the degree that you're applying for? Again, any extracurricular activity, if you've got any other kind of work experience or volunteering work or any kind of passions and hobbies that you think are really applicable and kind of feed into why you want to do the courses, please do elaborate on that. And then it's really things about you. So like I said, we do like to get to know all of our students here at the Royal Agricultural University. We've got the benefit of having quite a small campus, and it's really friendly and approachable, and we like to get to know everybody. So you'll find that you'll get to know your program leaders really well, and they'll know you really well, but also the wider team as well. Everyone's really friendly and helpful here. But we really do like to get to know people right from the outset. So putting as much information about you in your personal statement really does help the start of that process. So tell us a bit more about you. What are you hoping to achieve? Why are you applying for the course? Why is now the right time for you? And also, what are your career prospects? So we won't hold you to these because we know that things chop and change, and you might get influenced in different ways as you study through the program. but that might help us kind of support you and guide you on the next step of your career. As I've mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, getting you in a really great place to move on from the RAU into a brilliant job is basically everything that we're trying to do here for you. So it's important to us that we can guide you along that process. So that's it in a nutshell. We're not asking for loads and loads and loads of words. Our admissions team sort of as a guide say about one side of A4. So it doesn't need to be really, really lengthy, but just a good succinct page of information about why you're looking to study with us and things like that. So then just finally going back over to the left-hand side then of my screen, if English isn't your first language, then we might ask for evidence of your English language proficiency. So details of the entry requirements are on all of the course pages on our website. And then finally, it's just the normal name, address, telephone number, email address, copy of your passport, things like that, so that we can communicate with you and verify your application. So nothing too alarming, hopefully, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a guide because it is a little bit different from undergraduate study. So just going back then to the timeline, once you've submitted your application in time for those deadlines that I mentioned previously, there's two types of offer that our academic admissions team tend to give out. It's quite rare for us to say, no, you haven't got a place at all. These are the sort of most common offers that you'll expect to receive. So the first of which on there, just to clarify, an unconditional offer means you've met all the entry requirements, you've ticked all the boxes, you've got everything that you need, and they're happy to give you a place. But don't be alarmed if you do get a conditional offer in the first instance. It's really common. For example, it might just be that you've got a couple of bits that you haven't yet submitted. It might be that we're waiting for your degree certificate, for example, if you can't find it and you're looking to submit that later. It might be that we're just waiting for your English language proficiency results. It might just be one or two little things that we're waiting to tick off that list before we can turn it to an unconditional offer. And our admissions team look to respond within 10 working days to applications. So again, once if you've, for example, got a conditional offer, you've got another set of deadlines there as to when you need to meet those conditions. So again, if you're coming to us from outside of the UK, we're looking for you to meet your conditions by the 1st of August. And I've just popped the semester dates for next year, next academic year over onto the right-hand side, so you can see the kind of thinking behind why we've set these deadlines. So the first semester starts on the 30th of September. So that's why we're looking at getting everything sorted in good time before then, especially if you're looking at needing to get a visa or anything like that ahead of joining us in Cirencester. So just before I draw to a close then, here's a few kind of frequently asked questions that myself and my colleagues in the admissions team also get asked. So hopefully that might myth bust a few things for you there. So for example, you're due to complete your bachelor's degree this academic year. This is more looking at the agroecology course or any of our other sort of MSc courses that we offer here. So if you're looking at completing your bachelor's degree this academic year, can you apply before you've got your results? Yes, that's absolutely fine. That would just be a condition of your offer that you meet those entry requirements once you've got your results. So that's not a problem. You can go ahead and apply, and that'll be a condition of your offer. Again, a really common one that I quite often get asked by postgraduate students, especially if you're looking at doing a course part-time, for example, or you want to have a conversation with your employer about sort of restructuring your hours to fit around your higher education and things like that and your studies, but you've maybe not had that conversation with them yet. That's fine. You can still apply. You can just say that one of your references, if it's coming from your most recent employer, is pending. And that again will just be a condition of your offer, that once you've had that conversation and you're happy for your reference to come over to the admissions team, then you can do that in due course in line with the deadlines that we've set. So yeah, again, not a problem. We'll just bear that in mind as part of your application. And then finally, over on the right-hand side, I know a number of you are coming to us, listening to us from overseas today, so welcome again. But for example, if you completed your degree outside of the UK, your undergraduate degree, how can you find out if your qualifications meet the entry requirements? Again, a benefit of us being a smaller institution is that our admissions team can answer those individual questions on a case-by-case basis. So they just ask that you send them over an email with a scanned coloured copy of your degree award and any transcript documents that you do have. And their email address is admissions@rau.ac.uk, and they can work out the equivalencies and advise you accordingly. So just as I draw to a close then, if you've not visited us before and you'd like to, we run regular campus tours and they're applicable for undergraduate and postgraduate students. That gives you a really beautiful insight and an introduction to the university, and then we'll take you on a tour of the campus where you can see lots of our different facilities and things like that. There's also an opportunity to meet with some of our admissions staff and ask us any questions that you've got. So the next one of those is taking place on the 26th of June, but we do run them really regularly. So if you can't make that date, feel free to have a look at our website. And then we also do run regular webinars in a similar kind of introductory way to this, which are called an intro to the RAU. So please feel free to sign up for any of those if you'd like any more information. But that sort of draws my part of the presentation to a close. So I will stop sharing my screen and pass back over to Gareth, who's going to take us through a Q&A session. Thank you.
Ellie, thank you very much, and to Jonathan and to Beverly as well for doing that, because it's always great to find more information, get a real insight of the university, and I feel we've done that, which is amazing. There's been loads of questions come in. Ellie, I'm going to start with you. I know you've spoken a lot there, so I'm sorry, but we've also got Karen as well. I think she's on the same screen. Hi, Karen.
Our International Recruitment Officer, so she's just joined me here.
Yeah, so good timing to just pop your head over there. Some of the questions come in kind of relate to what you've just spoken about, Ellie, in relation to IELTS and scholarship funding opportunities. But I think one of the main questions to come in is around Chevening and Marshall scholarships. And look, we know who they are. We partner with them. Do you want to go into a bit more detail about who they are, why you partner with them, and the current students that are there, what they're studying?
Yeah, quite happy to. So we partner with them for a long time. We have quite a lot of Chevening scholarships, maybe 2 or 3 a year. And for such a small uni, that's quite a big thing. And the whole reason for doing it really is because of the importance of doing the sustainable agriculture course is generally what most of the Chevening students come in. We also have Marshall Papworth as well, and they go on to either one of our 2 courses, so the agrotechnology or sustainable agriculture. And really we work with them because the whole aim of the courses is to help people solve the problems that they have. So the 2 that we have at the moment are both farmers who had specific problems and came over here to look at how they can change the situation that they're in, how they can learn new skills and how they can take those skills back to their own countries and kind of spread that all out. One of the ladies who was here last year on Chevening, her whole aim was actually to go and set up a business. So she had the support from Chevening to do that when she went back home. And I think especially in Marshall Papworth as well, the students that are here, they're part of a family. They keep in contact with the person who is like their coordinator, do day trips, they do weekend courses. And it's not, we're just giving you money and that is it. It's kind of like they support them on their whole trip. And I've been privileged enough to meet a couple of our previous Chevening scholars when I've been overseas. So yeah, it is really important for us that we partner with organisations really that are there to support you for your life journey, because for us, it's so important what you do once you finish with us. And that's the reasons why we work specifically with those ones.
Absolutely. And look, agriculture, sustainability, farming, it's such a current, relevant topic, which in particular for the Chevening partnered countries as well, for a lot of you watching, it will be so important to come to the UK. And if you can't get that funding and you can't get that scholarship, head over to chevening.org, go to apply, find out more information. And the worst that can happen is you can apply again next year, or you can head over to Postgrad and find out more information. Ellie, just kind of sticking on the kind of international theme, you'd mentioned Cirencester a few times. I've been there. Even I was taken back. I'm from the southwest. It's a beautiful place, countryside. I think that's important, isn't it? Because postgraduate students, master's students in particular, I don't want to stereotype too much, but they might be past that nightclub vibe and going out every night. Then they're at a stage where they really want to enhance their studies, aren't they? So living in that kind of quieter space really does help.
It does, yeah. So we've got a number of different accommodation options as well, if students did want to come and stay here. So we've got a dedicated postgraduate accommodation block, which is essentially like a house. So we're, as we've mentioned, we're quite rural, so we don't have skyscrapers of student accommodation. It's all set out like a little student village. So we've got a dedicated postgraduate accommodation block here on campus, which is a really nice community to be a part of. But again, just touching on the kind of different layouts and working ways that people have here at the RAU. A number of our postgraduate students do live off campus as well. So there's a lot of different student lettings accommodation options around Cirencester and the neighbouring villages, which is really nice. Again, it enhances that kind of quintessential English study kind of environment, is that you can come and live in a lovely little Cotswold cottage while you're doing your postgrad studies. So it's unique in that way. But again, like we've got, as all our academics have touched on as well, we've got the beauty of all this land around us, which is just a beautiful part of the UK to be in. And then just finally, just touching again on accommodation options, there's, again, if you're looking at coming to us a little bit more flexibly and remotely, then we do have bed and breakfast opportunities on campus as well. So you don't not tied into a full accommodation contract for the year. You can do it on a night by night basis if you would rather do it that way. And there's a lot of different accommodation options around Cirencester in terms of short-term lets as Airbnb properties, for example, and there's also a Premier Inn and a Travel Lodge as well. So we are in the sticks, but there's some normal things around us too.
Yeah, but it comes with benefits,
Yeah,
the things are going to be so much more affordable. If you're living in Birmingham, like you said, London, an hour and quarter away on the train, you're going to be paying 4 or 5 times the amount that you're going to be paying in Cirencester or even in surrounding areas. So, and you don't get the benefits of, the Cotswolds not too far away and all these things. So, one of the questions that's coming, Karen, probably aimed towards you, is our current curriculum is English based at undergrad level, presumably. Do we still need English language certificate? Now, presumably they're going to be of a good level of English, otherwise they wouldn't have got that undergrad degree. But do you help enhance that level of English for students if they're not quite up to standard?
like doing pre-sessionals or something, you mean?
Yeah, pre-sessions, maybe some summer help before they join, or guidance, anything you can offer.
We work with other organisations that do, and it is something that we looked at a little bit more, but we have partner organisations we can refer people to. But as I said, they have to be of a certain level to be able to communicate in the classes. Our classes are really small, and it's really important that you can contribute in them. It's that's the most important thing. So they have to be up to a good level. Whilst they're here, we offer things like a little bit of cultural understanding classes. We do have some English language to help, because actually you might have really good English, but your informal English might be difficult. So we do that, but we would expect a certain level, and also obviously they required it for visa purposes. But anything like that, it can be run past admissions for them to check if there is if they've done the equivalent.
Of course, and I'm presuming it's 6.1, 6.2 is standard IELTS on the test, and other providers such as Pearson's and TOEFL you will also accept?
Yeah, we do that, and at Postgrad 6.5 for a lot of it, but we can show, it's all of our entry requirements are on the web pages anyway. We do accept PTE, but I would say again, refer back to the website because it's got everything that we do have on there. And obviously it's also different if you're a UK passport holder living overseas. So it is a case of having a look at the website.
Ladies, thank you. I'd like to come to Beverly at this point because I thought that both Beverly and John's presentations were fantastic. Beverly, if you'd like to just pop your camera back on for a moment, because we did have a few questions come in while you were presenting. One of the questions that came in, I think you've answered since, but I think it's important to go through. If you don't have an agricultural-based undergraduate degree, does that matter? Presumably that's who you're trying to attract to kind of enhance that opportunity.
Yeah, essentially, it doesn't matter what your undergraduate degree is. Where we are generally looking for people who have done an undergraduate degree, but then have gone on into industry. So it's that industry experience that I'm really looking at first for the MBA. So to see what you've done in your professional life. So you don't need, I think I've answered one about business. You don't need to have an undergrad business degree. You don't need to have an undergrad in any element of water management or of agriculture. You can come in from any sector as long as you have a passion to want to work in this new sector. And, our job is to make sure we give you the skills to do that.
Absolutely. And as a result, Ellie showed us some partnerships and businesses that you guys work with on a global and a national scale as well. A few of the names, we saw the maybe rogue name of McDonald's on there as well. But obviously, again, MBA falls into that patterning again. And presumably you have got some great partnerships and relationships.
Yeah, we do. And doing something like a consultancy project is about that, isn't it? It's about bringing together you as a student, as a learner at an advanced level with people who are working in professional practice. And you learn from them because you can see the problems that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But obviously they learn from you because they don't necessarily have the time to do the academic study, the reading of the journals that you're doing within your program. So it's a reciprocal relationship.
And Ellie and Karen, goes back to the personal statement that you mentioned earlier. Obviously, you guys are going to be inundated with applications. I would suggest, particularly for the 2 courses that we've been through today, or 2 or 3 courses we've been through. How does a student stand out when it comes to, going for one of those MBA courses? Perhaps they've got an engineering background and they want to move into an MBA. What are you looking for? Does it go back to what Beverly mentioned there in terms of they've got to have a real passion for wanting to study in those kind of industries?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's the passion and the drive that we'd like to see from the students. And just just impress upon us how passionate you are about the subject area and how much you want to learn and what you want to get out of the course as well. I think Beverly might want to add to that as well. But yeah, from a admissions and recruitment point of view, we're looking for the top tier students that really want to do this program and get the most out of it to then use it to further their careers.
Yeah, Beverly, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so with an MBA in particular, I end up seeing all the applications for that because everybody comes with completely different backgrounds. So I see a lot of very standardized personal statements, and they look like standardized personal statements. I really want to know about you and why you want to do this degree. I don't want you to tell me what we're teaching you. I don't want you to tell me what's brilliant about the Royal Ag, because I already know that. I really want you to say, what's it going to do for you? What are you going to bring to it? Remember that in a peer-to-peer learning situation, it's what you bring to that seminar, which is also important for other students. And I'm going to be assessing those other students and what they can be bringing to you, to create this sort of, really good learning environment, which is about exchange of ideas and creating something new out of that.
And I can't stress enough as well, the small classes that were mentioned earlier are so important. It allows you that real engagement one-to-one as well, doesn't it? So
yes, they're a real
that's so key.
It might seem on the outskirts that small classes might seem like a negative thing, but I can't impress enough how great that is.
Yeah,
the dedication you get from the program leaders and the module leaders that are teaching you to be able to have that real conversive kind of dialogue with them and your peers.
I think that's the biggest feedback we receive actually on a master's level when we speak to people when they go on to study their masters, and we say at the end, what did you wish for? And they kind of say, I wish I had a more of an engaging topic, a more engaging class, because if you've got a big class and you are in one of the huge universities, you can get lost, and rightly so. And it'd be good for you to have that kind of one-to-one learning where you can really enhance your studies and kind of educate yourself further, because that's why you're there ultimately. Also as well, I want to touch upon the Chevening and Marshals again. I know we've been through it already, but the whole point of the Chevening and Marshall scholarships is that you're of a high caliber student already. You go back to your respective countries and you form partnerships, and then long term you have a partnership with the Royal Agricultural University. They mentioned some of those earlier, so well worth remembering that. John, if I can get you on at this point, we got 5 minutes left, so I want to kind of just talk about the course that you went through in agroecology. There's been a few questions coming around piggery farming and stuff like that. We won't go into specific details in the courses, but talk to me more about the what you're looking for when students apply, in particular for the agroecology course.
Yeah, that's thanks for that question. I mean, I think one of the unique factors of studying the MSc at the RAU and also in the UK is this whole aspect of not needing necessarily to come out of an agricultural background. Now that creates a really rich learning space, because we might have somebody coming out of an economics degree at undergrad or a social sciences degree or whatever it is. It also does create a couple of challenges. Master's degrees tend to be a year long, they tend to have a lot of ground to cover. And we do our best to say cover these complex systems. So we're talking about agriculture, ecology, environment, social cultural domains. So my relationship to a master's degree is come expecting to have some specific knowledge and some specific introduction to skills or even operations, let's say running particular kinds of operations, and also come prepared to be innovative and actually seek out what it is that you particularly want to know. So somebody coming to me on a master's degree would say, well, I really want to understand about how we can innovate, let's say in poultry production, where poultry has some particular challenges. It has to do with animal health and welfare. It has to do with environmental impact and water, impact on water courses and everything like that. My discussion at that point, or the way that we would work as a master's student with myself, is how can I link you up with somebody within that sector who is, I think, doing an agroecological piece of work to address some of those issues and potentials in that way. So rather than come in and say we have a particular module on poultry, a particular module on pigs, a particular module on dairy, a master's degree doesn't usually lend itself to that degree of focus for everybody. And that's also partly because the room brings into it people with slightly different emphasis on what they actually want to come away with and where their career is taking them. So that's one way to answer that question, is how do you come into a context, the UK, very diverse farming environment, very diverse ecological environment. How do we link you up to where your passion and interest is? Possibly into the dissertation space where you're saying, okay, I'm going to start to look at this for a dissertation. And over the first semester, coming into the second semester, I'm going to start to develop those links. We're going to support those links that you are then moving towards. So my sense of the master's step, particularly in the UK too, is it is really what you make it. We have a very strong offer. We have a very strong set of module leaders, very lots of knowledge in the background. But a master's degree is also really what you want to make of it, to a degree.
Excellent. One of the questions that came in as well, I know you've kind of just answered it, is what's the actual difference in the MSc Sustainable Agricultural course and the MSc in Agroecology? I think it would depend on your passion and your your education so far and what you want to move forward with. Is that right?
Yeah, and to a degree, like the agroecology really has a specific, to a degree, agroecology is talked about as a science on the one hand, a way we go about knowing the agricultural environment, the ecological environment, the social. It's also talked about as a movement. So actually what you'll find probably stronger in agroecology is how is agroecology also working politically, culturally. We'll look at some of the history of it in terms of La Via Campesina. So there's a really kind of a root coming out of the global south. And then there's also a set of practices. So sometimes agroecological practices are different even than organics, but sometimes students on the agroecology program will be studying in the same module as students on the SAFS degree. There's some crossover there where we bring students together. That to me is a great advantage. Some of the modules here at the university will have students from across 4 different degrees studying on the same module. That makes for very rich kind of discourse and way to understand different ways of engaging with these agricultural and ecological environments.
Excellent. And Ellie as well, can I know you probably want to enhance further on that. Can we talk about the types of students that are at the university? Because no doubt, I know we've gone over a bit here, but I think it's important to talk through. International students, there'll be a lot of people that will be anxious about moving not only to the UK, but to the countryside. You mentioned it, into the sticks invariably, but you guys will offer a hand-holding exercise where, you help them. You'll want to welcome them. You feel part of a family because of the small class sizes. What else do you do to help the student feel welcome and settled as soon as they get here?
Okay, that's a really good question, which I'm sure Karen will add to as well. But yeah, in terms of the student experience, we've got something called our Student Hub, which is a manned area on campus, which is basically for everything academic, pastoral needs, any kind of help that students would like in terms of sort of getting to know the university, settling in, having help academically, but also with any kind of personal issues that they'd like addressing or like some extra support with. So we've got our Student Hub on campus. Again, it's worth noting that we've got a small, tight-knit community. We do have that kind of care and oversight of our students where we can kind of be, oh, I saw Karen across campus earlier, she looked a bit upset. I wonder if I'd just go and have a chat with her and see if she's okay. We've got that kind of community spirit to us here in Cirencester, which feedback from our international students and home students is something that's it's quite unique to us, and that we do have that level of care to our students. But as a kind of formal orientation process, I'll hand over to Karen, who can talk through kind of what we do for our international students.
We do pre-arrival webinars. So I'd say at Postgrad, we probably do a couple over the first week, and we run them usually about a month before coming over to give you some idea over what it's going to be like when you're here. Because it is things like, the weather difference, the food difference, those kind of things do make people really stressed. And also getting here, we run through the options for how to get from the airport. If you don't want to stay on campus, other options. We are like any sort of small team. So the lady who deals with accommodation is called Hannah, a little bit like the mums on campus, really, but we will make sure that you are all sorted. There are also, for undergrads, we actually run an orientation few days. Postgrads can join, but often just because of the time that postgrads start later, they may or may not want to. And then once they're here, and we tell them to make good use of the student hub, but then we also set up these special sessions that are run with a local language provider, and they help with things like integration, cultural differences, cultural understandings, and because it is a safe space, you can always bring your problems into that. But also, we're also here, we've got a little office up there, up the corridor. We're always about, there's always somebody in who can help, and it's really just a case of people know who you are, we know who you are because we are so small, so yeah, they can't get away, but we will also make sure that you are well.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, in terms of the kind of student welfare on campus, but it's something that we really do pride ourselves on. So not only do we have our student hub, which is sort of manned within office hours, we've always got 24-hour security on campus with a manned first aider there as well. And that's, again, for sort of physical harm and any kind of mental kind of issues that people might have in terms of wanting extra support in the depths of the night when it can be a bit lonely if you're in a different country, in a different city, haven't really met many people yet. So it's something that we really do make sure that we encourage students to take advantage of. But just go and have a chat. If there's anything that we can help with, we're all here to support, and that support is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Superb. And Karen, we went an hour and a quarter without mentioning the weather deliberately. But look, everyone, thank you for your time. Just before we do wrap up, a reminder, if anyone's missed any of today's session, it will be on the via your email, and it will be on the homepage of postgrad.com. If you want any more information about Royal Agricultural University, there is a profile page on postgrad.com. Head over to our homepage, type in Royal Agricultural University, and up comes all the information that Karen, Emily, Beverly and John have all spoken about today. And if you've got any questions at all, please do let us know. A reminder that there is an open event coming up for the Royal Agricultural University in just a couple of weeks' time, and to head over to our website or to their website to apply, and details will be on your email for a follow-up. But for now, a huge thank you to everyone involved, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully, Royal Agricultural University, later on in the year, if not next year. And thank you to everyone for watching and staying tuned. Thank you.